Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. First thing first, next week's video will be the monthly Q&A. I'm sure most of you already know the drill. Please post your questions in the comments or email me if you prefer to be anonymous. If you have already posted questions in prior videos, I will take a look at those as well. As many of you already know, I live in Montreal, Canada. Montreal is a major city in the province of Quebec. In Montreal, the average annual temperature is a mere 7.1 Celsius or 44.8 Fahrenheit. Also, area-wise, it's huge, but about 3 times the size of France and Texas. Many places in Quebec are a lot colder than Montreal. So if you live in northern Quebec, you might even feel Montreal is like Miami. I have distinct memories of my hometown, Tianjin, in northeastern China, getting very cold in the winter as well. After moving to Canada, I used to regularly visit China. Whenever I visit Tianjin during the winter, I did not find it to be extremely cold. My friends told me I had become very Canadianized. I realized that by living in Canada, my ability to resist cold temperatures improved a lot. To many people, it may sound like a great thing to have. However, based on personal experience, the body may consume more energy in the process of adapting to a colder environment. Of course, compared to China, in Canada we enjoyed fresh air, water, and an overall cleaner environment. However, at the same time, if you go from China to Canada, your body may have to adjust its functions to a colder environment. More specifically, the cold weather in Canada may have changed my body structure and certain functions. I'd like to share a story with you. Many years ago, a friend of mine, Mr. Kenneth Fish, visited me from the US. He has years of training experience in multiple styles. He visited me during late fall or earlier winter. It was starting to get cold. To my surprise, he told me that he could sense that he was losing energy when entering Quebec. When he mentioned this to me, I was surprised, but I did not say anything since I was mainly thinking about the reason behind his experience. From then on, I started paying attention to the experience he described. Surprisingly, I gradually began to experience the same thing myself. During the winter, I can feel a considerable decreases in flexibility as the temperature drops. While during spring and summer, my flexibility gradually returns to normal. Even since I had conscious realization of this experience, I started focusing more on stretching while teaching my students. I believe cold temperature negatively impacts the flexibility, and the best solution is to simply stretch more during the winter. So, the reason for me to talk about the impact of the weather temperature on the body is that if you are relatively new or inexperienced in stretching and flexibility, and you happen to live in an area where the weather is getting warmer, it is the right time for you to practice stretching exercise. Please work on this practice and you will see the benefits with time. Of course, stretching can be very uncomfortable in the beginning, but with constant practice, you will certainly get comfortable with it. I'm sure you will also find it very enjoyable. Many of you may recall a video in which I talked about the importance of stretching. Title of that video is Decoding Martial Proverbs number 4, Extending Tendon, Pulling Bone, Bow and Arrow. In that video, I even made a small demonstration about stretching. Do check it out if you haven't already. If you have not watched that video yet, the link is in the description. So, why am I talking about this today? Well, today, I'd like to introduce another topic, Kai Kua, Kai Jian, Kai Lei, or opening hips, shoulders, and ribcage. This concept is similar to 抻筋拔骨, or stretch the tendon and pull the bone, which I introduced in the prior video. Actually, 抻筋拔骨 can be considered a stepping stone to the final goal of Kai Kua, Kai Jian, Kai Lei. If you bypass the first stage of 抻筋拔骨, you will never be able to achieve the final goal of Kai Kua, Kai Jian, Kai Lei. So, topics covered in today's video include: first, Kai O opening; second, importance of Kai Kua, Kai Jian, and Kai Lei; third, practical techniques; fourth, classification; fifth, demonstration; sixth, takeaways. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Topic 1. Kai O opening. The character Kai has many meanings. Possible meanings include, but are not limited to this: open, initiate, begin, start. However, the most commonly used meaning of Kai is open, since this character was created by describing the motion of the opening of the door. More specifically, it describes the act of removal of the horizontal wooden bar used to lock the ancient doors. By the way, ancient Chinese doors typically had two halves. Open such a door would mean either pushing or pulling them. In Chinese history, Kai is synonymous and often interchangeable with another character, Zhang. Zhang is also a very common family name. Originally, the character Zhang was used to describe the act of someone pulling on a bow's string. So, possible meanings of the character Zhang include, but are not limited to, stretch, extend, and expand. Very often, Kai and Zhang are interchangeable when describing actions like stretching, extending, and expanding. Therefore, the popular martial art term of Kai Kua, Kai Jian, Kai Lei, or opening hips, shoulders, and rib cage actually means to stretch, extend, and expand the hips, shoulders, and rib cage. The word opening here provides a very visual representation of the concept, which is why it's popularly used instead of the word stretching, extending, or expanding. Also, opening and closing, or kai he, is a popular term used to describe martial art movements. That's why people would often use the word kai to mean opening instead of stretching, extending, or expanding. To be more precise, opening describes the result of working on stretching, extending, and expanding. To be clear, in this video, I will focus on the method of stretching, extending, and expanding, which will help you achieve the goal of opening. Topic 2. Importance of Kai Kua, Kai Jian, and Kai Lei. More importantly, in Chinese martial art system, people use the term Kai or opening to indicate a result of a long time practice, which is the level that all the movements are practiced without blockage and unnecessary physical restriction. So, a further explanation of Kai means smoothness and the ability to perform movement without major difficulties. Now, what parts of the body are most important in this context? Well, traditionally, we focus on three areas include Kua, Jian, and Lei, or hips, shoulders, and ribcage. So let me talk about them one by one. Kua, or hips, are the largest weight-bearing joints in the human body. Not only do they support the entire body weight and enable a lot of body motion, but they are also critical for power generation in martial movements. Also, in internal styles, though there may be minor differences, the dantian area generally include the entire area between the hips and the lower back. In other words, the hips can be considered to be part of the dantian. And you all know how important the dantian is in the internal styles. So it logically follows that the hips, rather the flexibility of the hips, is directly related to the power generation in the internal styles. That is exactly why the internal styles include many training methods to improve the flexibility of the hips. Therefore, going forward, whenever you come across the term dantian, you should think about the movement of your hips as well as remember that it is part of the lower dantian area in martial art practice. Jian, or shoulders, are the main joint connecting the arms with the rest of the body. It goes without saying the arms are the most important weapons of the body in self-defense situations. The flexibility of the shoulders can directly affect the transmission of power from the body to the arm. The speed of the hand naturally depends on the speed of the arms. And the speed of the arms, particularly in the context of the internal styles, depends on the flexibility and the controls of the shoulders. In other words, without a flexible and well-controlled shoulder, you will never have fast and powerful hands. Power requires both force and speed. If you lack speed and force, you will also lack power, which will make the movement ineffective in self-defense situations. So, training the shoulders is the key to have both speed and force, and thus power in the hands. Last but definitely not least is Lei, or rib cage. A flexible rib cage implies the ability to move the rib cage vertically and diagonally with speed and power. Unfortunately, many people often neglect this part in martial art practice. Recall that I mentioned in my video on Guo Yunshen, Xingyi practitioners very often have a hard time making the rib cage area flexible. As a child, I experienced this problem myself during my Xingyi practice. It's usually not the practitioner's fault, but the nature of Xingyi practice itself that partially creates this problem. Xingyi practice primarily emphasizes power training, and such an approach often causes rigidity in the rib cage if you do not practice flexibility in training. To summarize, a good martial artist should pay attention to the flexibility of the hips, shoulders, and rib cage in order to achieve optimal speed and power. There is no other way. Topic 3. Practical techniques. Based on decades of training and teaching experience, I recommend that you focus on the following 3 steps in order to improve the martial functions of the hips, shoulders, and the rib cage. First, start from chen jin ba gu, or stretch the tendon and pull the bone. It is comparatively a more static approach in practice. Again, please watch my video on chen jin ba gu if you haven't already. I cannot emphasize enough the benefit of chen jin ba gu. Key points for this step are: first, knees should extend outward. Second, twist your upper body. Make sure your shoulder align with your chin. And C, shoulders and hips should turn in opposite directions, causing a twisting of the upper body. These are just some basic principles for this step. 2. Focus on dynamic training. Again, chen jin ba gu is only the first step. Without a dynamic approach, any static practice will only provide very limited benefits. The key question here is what should be done in order to improve the real dynamic flexibility. Actually, I already answered this question in the first part of this video. You should focus on the opening and closing movements, extending and expanding movement, especially vertical and diagonal movements of your shoulders, hips, and rib cage. Please find some movement in a style that can provide such actions and motions, and repeat them regularly. With time, you will see the result. Third, integrate speed and force. Next step is the process of integration of speed and force. You can start working on it by alternating training on speed and force. Gradually integrate them together in training by emphasizing both speed and force simultaneously. This is the key aspect in training. It is worth noting a very unfortunate phenomenon that many people only talk about Kai Kua, Kai Jian, and Kai Lei, or opening hips, shoulders, and rib cage, without practicing the chen jin ba gu, or stretch the tendon and pull the bone. As a result, they never reach the real openness, which is the gold standard of martial art practice. Also, without this very openness of the key areas of the body, your force and power will simply be restricted inside the body, which will make your movement ineffective in a self-defense situation. Furthermore, there is often a lack of unity between the mind and the physical movement. If there is insufficient openness, even though you can train your mind in a martial application to reach a very high speed level, your physical body will not be able to follow the speed of your mind. This discrepancy will eventually make your mind slower in martial art practice, as the mind always tries to align with the physical movements. Usually, we only talk about the impact of the mind on the physical body. However, in reality, the physical body can have the same level of impact on the mind as well, if not more. Unfortunately, this is the commonly neglected aspect. The unity of mind and body can be tested in fast movements. To summarize, in order to practice Kai Kua, Kai Jian, and Kai Lei, you should follow the 3-step approach. Eventually, speed and force will be unified as one, which is the state of real openness in practice. Topic 4. Clarification. Now, let me clarify a few points. This video focuses on how to improve martial flexibility. Basically, there are two types of flexibility training, static and dynamic. In martial art practice, static flexibility is a prerequisite of dynamic flexibility. Unfortunately, many practitioners do not try to get past the point of static flexibility. Of course, you can achieve static flexibility through daily stretching with yoga or other similar exercise, but they won't help you achieve dynamic flexibility. You need dynamic training to achieve dynamic flexibility. Another common issue is speed without strength. I'm sure you have come across many martial art demonstrations in which practitioners move fast, but without sufficient martial power. As a result, the movement looks nice, but lack martial power, rendering such movements ineffective for self-defense. So, going forward, whenever you watch a martial art demonstration, especially forms or routines, please pay attention to the practitioner's power release. Without martial power, any movement, no matter how appealing to a beginner's eyes, will not be considered expert level. Topic 5. Demonstration. Today, I'd like to introduce a small exercise from Xingyi. It is used to practice martial flexibility of the upper body area. I recommend you include this exercise in every training section. Okay, I'd like to introduce one exercise, practice the dynamic flexibility for the shoulder and the rib cage and the hips. So you can keep the opening posture and the front foot like you open a little more. The other one just point forward, okay? So like this angle. And make sure the knee is stable and extend outward. So the first part, stretch with the palms and focus on the internal change with body. 1, then turn the body, then strike. So again, 1, 2, 3. So extend, relax, then strike. Extend, relax, and extend. Topic 6. Takeaways. I hope this video taught you the importance of martial flexibility. To summarize, we talked about the following points. First, the character Kai means the act of opening. It has many other meanings as well, but opening is the meaning we focus on in the context of martial art to denote martial flexibility. Second, Kai Kua, Kai Jian, and Kai Lei, or opening the hips, shoulders, and rib cage. This is a very important concept. It can be considered the next stage after Chen Jin Ba Gu. All three parts are critical area in martial training for power generation and other martial functions. 3. I also explained a 3-step approach to practice Kai Kua, Kai Jian, and Kai Lei. The 3 steps are: first, start with Chen Jin Ba Gu. Second, focus on the dynamic training. Third, integrate speed and force to generate and release power. That's ends today's video. Thank you for watching. See you next time and enjoy your practice.